Honorable Chair, the Honorable Ministers here present, members of the media. Let's start our post-cabinet briefing, the 36th post-cabinet briefing. As usual, we have our chair, Honorable Mtangwa, to take us through what was discussed and agreed on today. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary. I was just about to apologize, but I think today we started on time. I'm happy to introduce my colleague ministers who are here today, who will take all your questions. I do have with me Honorable Chair of the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on COVID-19, and also Minister of Defense and War Veterans, Honorable Opa Mchinguri Kashiri. And then I do have Honorable Dr. Masuka, who is our Minister of Agriculture. And then right behind me is Honorable Matema, our Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. And once again, I want to welcome you, members of the media, and once again, thank you for supporting us and working together. Today, I'm here to give you the 36th post-press briefing. The first Cabinet received an update on Zimbabwe's response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Cabinet received this update from the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs as the chairperson of the ad hoc inter-ministerial task force on COVID-19. Cabinet was informed that as of 9 October 2020, Zimbabwe's cumulative cases of COVID-19 stood at 7,994, with 6,474 recoveries and 229 deaths. The majority of the cases, which is about 6,612, were all local transmissions. With regard to laboratory testing, Cabinet noted that the notification system at laboratories has been upgraded to communicate availability of results directly to clients by text messaging. This has reduced the time it takes for one to get their COVID-19 test results. A task force subcommittee has commenced supervisory visits to various ports of entry to assess the effectiveness of the Ministry of Health and Child Care protocols and the new quarantine regulations associated with increased human traffic in light of the reopening of the country's tourism sector. Cabinet was also informed that since the reopening of both domestic and international flights, port authorities are complying with COVID-19 guidelines and standard operating procedures for the safety of both airport staff and travelers. Airlines that have resumed flights to Zimbabwe include Rwanda Air, Kenya Airways, Ethiopian Airlines, and Emirates. Cabinet noted that preparations are underway to ensure that schools are ready for phase 2 of reopening when grade 6, Form 3, and Form 5 classes resume. Then Cabinet received this report on ease of doing business reforms in the agricultural sector. This update was given by the Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Water and Rural Settlement, Dr. Masuka. The reforms are intended to create an enabling environment that promotes competitiveness in the agriculture sector by improving the time, cost, and processes which clients pass through when obtaining regulatory documents. In this regard, the cost of acquiring the necessary health certification documents have since been reduced by at least 40% through amendment of Statutory Instrument 94 of 2016. The compliance certificate now costs 25 Zimbabwe dollars from the initial US $100. Furthermore, Statutory Instrument 83 of 2013 was repealed, thereby removing the levy paid by transporters at ports of entry and exit. Cabinet also wishes to inform the public that one-stop permit processing office has been established at the Ministry head office. The office brings together regulatory agencies which include seed services, the Agricultural Marketing Authority, and plant quarantine services. Clients no longer need to travel to Mazoe plant quarantine station to obtain plant import permits. The Veterinary Services and the National Biosafety Authority will soon join the one-stop office. At the Beitbridge border post, clients can now pay only once for a range of services using the SCUDA system under the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority. The electronic system for issuance of permits will soon become operational, thereby facilitating virtual applications for imports and exports permits. Cabinet further wishes to inform the nation that export permit validity for all controlled agricultural produce has now been increased to 6 months, with effect from August 2020. The possibility of merging livestock-related levies into one is also being considered. In order to expedite issuance of stock clearance for movement, Cabinet encourages farmers to adopt personal brands which facilitate livestock identification and traceability. Then Cabinet received a report on pre-budget strategy paper. Cabinet received and approved this 2020 pre-budget strategy paper, which was presented by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable Mutulu. Cabinet was informed that the 2021 budget strategy paper constitutes a valuable tool which is intended to guide consultative discussions and sharing of ideas on national priority policies, programs, and projects. Cabinet noted that prospects for 2021 and beyond are based on recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, resumption of global economic activity, a good agricultural season, and enhanced revenue collection. Economic revival will also hinge on sustainability of the foreign currency auction system, trade and tourism resumption, the materialization of mining investment targets, and the firming of international mineral prices. It is also anticipated that domestic aggregate demand will recover, that currency stability will strengthen, and that annual inflation will decline. The areas of focus for the 2021 national budget are guided by the National Development Strategy 2021 to 2025, which will be launched by the first week of November 2020. The National Development Strategy is a successor to the Transitional Stabilization Plan, which is coming to an end in December 2020. The strategy will consolidate the achievements of the TSP as we move towards Vision 2030 of attaining an upper middle income status economy. Guided by the ongoing NDS, that's National Development Strategy consultations, the 2021 budget will focus on critical areas which include the following: inclusive growth and macro stability, development and supporting productive value chains, optimizing value in our national resources, infrastructure, ICT, and the digital economy, human capital development, as well and well-being, effective institution building and governance, and engagement and re-engagement. Then Cabinet received a report on weather outlook for the 2020 to 2021 summer season and forecast implications thereof. Cabinet received the weather report and outlook for the period 9th to 16th of October 2020, which the Minister of Environment, Climate, Tourism and Hospitality Industry presented, together with the National Preparedness Planning for emergencies related to the 2020-2021 rainfall season, and this report was presented by the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, Honorable July Moyo. Cabinet was informed that some parts of the country received thunderstorms which were accompanied by lightning in some places. Other areas witnessed strong winds and hailstones which destroyed houses in some places. However, the nation is advised that effective rainfall is usually received around mid-November for most parts of the country. Those farmers who may want to start planting should liaise with the agri-tax officers for the best advice. Regarding the country's preparedness for emergencies likely to occur during the 2020-2021 rainfall season, the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, Honorable July Moyo, informed Cabinet that with high rainfall amounts expected during this 2020-2021 rainfall season, government is getting ready to deal with anticipated disasters. This is in view of the widespread damage experienced in the past during Cyclone Dineo in 2017 and Cyclone Idai in 2019. Accordingly, the National Contingence Plan for the 2020-21 rainfall season has been crafted to deal with the wide range of hazards which can be expected, which may include flash flooding, severe thunder, wind and hailstorms, landslides, and major human and animal disease, as well as crop pest outbreaks. Cabinet resolved to capacitate departments that are critical in early warning systems and approved a budget amounting to US 32 million for the facilitation of early recovery from potential adverse impacts from the 2020-21 rainfall season. We want to thank you for always supporting us, and thank you very much for listening. I will now accept.
Thank you very much. Now we come to question time. As usual, we have two sessions. Session 1, 4 questions at most. Who wants to start the ball rolling? Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Kuzema Maziri. I'm a freelance journalist. My question is going to the Honorable Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. Whilst preparations are underway for phase 2 of schools opening, I would want to know what is the position now in terms of the negotiations with teachers so that they can be back at work. Because of late we have seen quite a number of footage of children engaging in nasty stuff, smoking drugs at school because they're not teachers. So maybe the minister might shed more light. How far are they with the negotiations so that at least when phase 2 comes, teachers will be back at work? Thank you.
Any other volunteer? Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Blessed Mhlanga from Heart and Soul TV and Radio and Newsday. My question will go to the Minister of Local Government. I wanted to know that since our currency that we are supposed to use is local Zimbabwean dollar, why is your budget for disaster preparedness marked in United States dollars? Then my question also goes to the chairperson of the COVID response. I've noted that we have actually opened up the economy, most of the sectors of the economy, including accepting the foreign tourists into the country. Why are we opening up all the other sectors of the economy and closing up sectors of democracy like elections? By elections, we have closed that out at a time where you are opening up everything else. Why are we doing that? And maybe because the Minister of Finance has just walked in, just wanted to understand the major highlights on the pre-budget strategy paper. What are Zimbabweans expecting to see that could actually, as you said in your statement, that there's going to be current stability and a strengthening of the economy? What indicators could we expect? Thank you.
You had more than 2, my friend. Huh? Okay. Okay. Any other volunteer? Yes, at the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Ngwe Kolisani. Now I've got 2 questions. For the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. Phase 1 seemed to be like a challenge. Last week he said 29% of the teachers have reported to work. My question is, what's the rationale then? If not all schools have opened for phase 1, what guarantee do we have that the kids who go back to phase 2 will be safe and also focusing on what they're supposed to do? Another question goes to the Minister of the chairperson of the COVID task force. We've reopened our country, and when do you expect to open the inland border post?
Last one. If not, we can revert back to the chair.
I have more than 4 questions.
Yes, please, yeah. So that's okay.
Thank you very much, Secretary, and thank you once again. Those who have asked very good questions. Mazire wanted to know from Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, since now that you are preparing for the phase 3, we wanted to know how far you've gone with the negotiations with teachers to make sure that teachers all go back to work. Minister?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm not so sure that this issue was discussed in Cabinet today. The issue of negotiations, in any case, there is Minister Mavima responsible for that. So we didn't discuss the issue in Cabinet. Thank you.
Mr. Mazire, you can always contact the Minister Professor Mavima, who is in charge of who is actually going through the negotiations. He'll be able to help you. Let's move on to Blessed Mkanga's question, and the question is directed to Minister of Local Government, Honorable July Moyo. He's asking why your budget is in US dollars, since our currency, we have our own local currency. Minister July.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to thank Blessed Mhlanga for this patriotic observation. And I can assure you the budget is in Zim dollars at 2.7 billion Zim dollars. Putting it in US dollars is because we have 7 pillars which we want to make sure we are prepared for our planning for this disaster that might result because of the floods. And our first one is our early warning system, which we obviously are looking for equipment that might have influenced putting it in US dollars, because the equipment is going to be imported from outside. And of course the rest is in Zim dollars, the education we need to do to alert people about what's going to happen. And because of early warning, if our meteorological service department is well equipped, we know that we can warn our people very well. The rest is our search and rescue, is in Zim dollars, and the relief that might come, that might be needed using either aircraft, the Air Force, or ZRP, the Aqua system. These and the disease controls. Some of the diseases obviously we would need to import, but definitely the budget is in Zim dollars. I also want to say today is the International Day for Disaster Reduction, and we as Zimbabwe are joining everybody in planning for disaster reduction, and this is part of our Sendai framework agreement that all countries are observing this day as a day of disaster reduction. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable July Moyo, for answering Blessed on that one, and I think that was a comprehensive answer. Thank you very much. And we'll go to the next question again by Blessed Mhlanga, and this is now directed to the chairperson of the task force on Interministerial Committee on COVID-19 outbreak, Honorable Muchinguri Kashiri. He wants, Blessed wants to know, he actually said, yes, we have witnessed the economy being opened now, including even foreign tourists into the country, and he would like to know why democratic elections is not being allowed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mhlanga. Let me start by saying that all the sectors that have been opened which have an economic bearing are a result of long consultations with those particular sectors, which result in government putting in place statutory instruments with very specific rules and regulations which apply to WHO rules and regulations. And so there is no problem in as far as all those sectors are concerned. What we have not received also are presentations from the from the other political space, democratic space, approaching government to say that they are ready to engage government so that elections are held. And for us to make decisions for these sectors which do not demonstrate the capacity to observe the WHO rules and regulations at this point, I would rather not comment on it until that time comes. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Mchunguri Kashiri. And we go to the next question, which Professor Mchunguri, you are here. Oh, welcome. And as you walked in, Blessed was waiting for you. And Blessed Mchanga, I would like to hear major highlights on the pre-budget paper which you presented today in Cabinet, especially to show what indicators should people be looking at. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Post-Cabinet press briefing. I was at the cricket event where we were sending our cricketers away to Pakistan, as well as branding them visit Zimbabwe, which is fantastic for our tourism, but also for our revival after the COVID-19 crisis. On the pre-budget strategy paper, Chairman, I think this is Blessed who asked the question. Thank you very much. As you know, this tool basically is just a tool for us to engage you, to engage the public, to engage the parliamentarians, to engage each other within government and the private sector and everyone in terms of what we need to put in our budget for 2021 so that it truly becomes a budget that will stimulate growth, that will drive the equity agenda in all its forms, that will drive the development of our country, including development in a spatial nature. So the typical flow of the document really goes through just affirming how the 2021 budget fits into the trajectory of our road, in terms of fits into the roadmap to what it is in 2030, basically being an enactment document for the NDS, National Development Strategy, which will launch soon, and then followed by the second one all the way up to Vision 2030. So really that's the first part, just to show that it is grounded on that roadmap. But also we are saying that this budget also is taking the platform, or rather the foundation has been set by the TSP. So in the BSP paper, we also analyze how we think we've done in terms of the strategic stabilization program. It is up, it's concluding in December, but it was launched on the 4th of October 2018, as you know. So really 2 years on, we try to assess how we've done, and that's the foundation that we're building upon as far as the budget 2021 is concerned. As we typically do, of course, we try to give a summary of how the global economy is expected to perform. Basically, the takeaway is that there's been a big dip this year in global economic growth, and we expect full recovery next year. The rate of growth is lowest in the developed countries, and less severe in the developing world, including ourselves here in Africa and Zimbabwe. So we expect a recovery all around. Of course, there are risks. If the COVID-19 pandemic persists in the way it does, that presents a risk to the global economy naturally. But also we show that there are risks in terms of some of the trade tensions, technology tensions among the major economies such as the United States and China. All those are risks to the global economy. We then transition naturally to an analysis of how we've fared under the TSP. We've already done a press conference with yourselves on that. But what's really coming out is that we've done, I think, reasonably or well in terms of ticking all the boxes under the TSP, where they are looking at macroeconomy in terms of stabilization, in terms of introducing a new currency which is now stable, in terms of our efforts to try to deal with inflation, in terms of efforts in just restoring full monetary policy, fiscal consolidation, and dealing with all balances in the current account. We wanted to achieve all of those. But also we've continued with our infrastructure development, with our governance reforms, and also supporting the vulnerable in terms of our social sector expenditure, social protection initiatives. Right across the board, we've got a full bouquet of social protection measures doing that, and we've managed to meet all of those. But also we recognize what we've done in terms of the social sectors themselves, health, the education problem, COVID-19 response, as well as the education sector. So we've gone through that, and I'm just summarizing really our achievements under the TSP. Then we transition in the paper to the macro fiscal framework for the 2021 budget. Of course, we make an assumption, as I've said earlier, that we expect recovery from COVID-19, or at least learn to cope with it and to find a way around it. I think we can do that already. And then we're expecting a resumption of global economic growth. We're expecting a good agricultural season. The last 48 hours have been particularly encouraging, and we hope that continues. And then we want to enhance revenue collection. We want to sustain the auction system for the currency. We want to support the tourism and trade resumption initiatives. The tourism has been particularly impacted by COVID. And we want to support, obviously, the mining sector and beneficiation sector. And again, it is an assumption that international mineral prices, as well as other commodity prices, will continue to remain firm, and aggregate demand domestically will continue to increase. And of course, I talked about macro fiscal stability that will continue, certainly strive to maintain it. But also want to make sure that we domesticate our value chains, productive value chains, which really, by we mean import substitution in terms of the old plants, but it's domesticating value chain, productive value chains in the new plants. So really, those are the assumptions. So we expect the economy to recover, the public finances to remain strong, the monetary sector to remain stable, and we expect the recovery to continue. And because of that, our basically payoff line for the pre-budget statement here in the budget, we may fine-tune it when we get to the budget, is really building resilience and recovery post-COVID-19, building resilience and recovery post-COVID-19. Now, in terms of the pillars of the budget strategy paper, we have 7 pillars. 1 is focusing on inclusive growth and macro stability. 2 is developing and supporting productive value chains. 3 is optimizing value of our natural resources. 4 is supporting infrastructure development, ICT, and the digital economy. And then 5 is human capital development and well-being. And then 6, building effective institutions and governance institutions. And 7 is on engagement and re-engagement. You can imagine under inclusive growth and macro stability, we have the usual macro issues, fiscal, monetary, but also that's where we have devolution as well in all its forms, the youth, job creation, just being inclusive in terms of all groups, the SME sector, being gender sensitive in the well-being and the youth issue. Then on the value chains, again, this is all our support for agriculture. It's in Fuvudza, Presidential Input Scheme, and then our commercial smart stock command agriculture, which we're doing in partnership with the banks, and then supporting the horticulture recovery plan. And then on the manufacturing sector, again, we want to really roll out our national industrialization strategy, which is very clear as to what should be done, again, to support domestic value chains and domesticate productive value chain. And then natural resources, we are focusing on the mining sector. This was a $12 billion industry, brick by brick, year by year, towards the year 2023, and we need to support the sector and the ministry in realizing that vision, that is value for money. And we do have value for money. And then the tourism sector, naturally, this needs to be supported with the tourism recovery plan. We are targeting a $5 billion industry by year 2025. And again, we want to support it in the concentric way that we've articulated, which is domestic tourism, regional tourism, international tourism, image building and branding. Through those concentric circles as we widen the coverage in terms of promoting tourism. I did say that infrastructure, ICT, digital economy are a key pillar. Pillar 4, that's what we expect. We want to again invest more in the ICT sector. With a new way of working, I didn't know I could have so many meetings and attend so many global meetings through Zoom, and I think we're all discovering that. In fact, as we speak, we're in the middle of the IMF World Bank annual meetings, and it looks normal, but without the travel. So clearly ICT is the new normal in terms of work environment, but also in supporting various industries. We want to invest in that. Again, within infrastructure, I want to support housing, capacity National Housing Fund, National Housing Guarantee Fund, including urban renewal and also urban infrastructure. All that is critical for driving economic growth. And obviously transportation, whether we're looking at roads, airports, and so forth, the energy sector, water and sanitation, our dams and the whole sanitation issues, those will be supported in the budget. And 6, human capital development and well-being. Here we're looking at really health, education sector, health sector, looking for the software, the hardware. Hardware is the facilities, is the equipment, software being simply perhaps human capital in the sector that we commit to support, and we want to grow the number of health workers over time, and naturally we will support that, as well as the emoluments, but also managerial systems within our health sector, and make sure that we drive those synergies between our health ministry and Ministry of Higher Education. Within the education sector is primary and secondary, as well as higher education, again emphasizing the principles of education 5.0 at all those levels, which is really education to the production of knowledge, but knowledge which produces goods and services, not just knowledge for its knowledge's sake. And that is clear in terms of what we've seen in the PPP that is being produced right through the education sector. It's testimony to the change of gear towards productive knowledge. We then tend to Pillar 5, which is effective institutional building and governance. We are looking at property rights, allowing laws to the Constitution, strengthening our social contract processes and procedures, rebuilding our state-owned enterprises, dealing with corruption and capacitating the institutions that are dealing with corruption, and then capacitating ZIDA, which is our institution for attracting foreign direct investment, as well as the driving domestic investment, and all ease of doing business environment also will be supported with the budget. And finally, in engagement and re-engagement, we continue to do that, and we've made progress with obviously the lifting of restrictions and sanctions on certain of our financial institutions. We are looking at CPZ, Agribank, ZB, ITBZ. We've made progress on that front, but not on all fronts. So we continue to engage and re-engage. But the final areas, again, now that COVID, or at least we're getting used to it in terms of coping with it, we'll now move up a gear in our external areas clearance agenda. And finally, in terms of the diaspora engagement. We again want to deepen our engagement with our diaspora, diaspora. The bulk for our diaspora is in South Africa. So 48% of the people are in South Africa, followed by UK at 17%, and then Australia at, now wrong, United States at 7.4%, Australia at 5.3%. So we know where they live, and we want to engage them for their skills, for their networks, and for resources. So that's the DSP's engagement tool. But the consultation process for the budget has already started without the document. You put voluntary submissions, we've been receiving those, but also we've been engaging Parliament itself has been engaging, especially the Budget and Finance Committee. They've been engaging as well. So it's quite widespread, and we hope that you can also send your comments and suggestions on Twitter and Facebook soon. And yeah, so this is the highlights of the pre-budget strategy paper. Thank you.
It's smiling. I hope that was the side of this video. I can see. Thank you very much, Minister Professor Mtuli, for that complete summary of all the we go to the next question, and the question is from Korisani Mube. It is directed to the Minister of Primary Secondary Education, Honorable Matema. He wanted to know, he says phase one seems to be like a challenge. So what's the rationale of moving to the phase two?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair Kolisani. Thank you, Siavonga. Schools have been opened through several phases. We've opened our schools since June for the ZIMSEC examinations. We opened our schools on the 14th of September for the grade 7, Form 4 and Form 6 examinations. We opened our schools on the 28th of September. And we'll continue opening our schools in phases depending on what the circumstances are on the ground vis-a-vis the issue of COVID-19. And I don't know of any school which is closed today, but schools will be opened, and they are opened, and we will open them. Just like any other country, Zimbabwe is not the only one in this situation. All countries are opening schools. If they are closing them at any given moment, it depends on the situation on the ground. We are living in a global world, and Zimbabwe is not a country alone in the bush. So we'll open our schools as conditions allow us to do so. Thank you very much.
All right. They want to know when after the borders
Thank you for that very important question. What I would want to say is that as Zimbabwe, we are very proud that internationally we are regarded as one of those countries that have performed very well. And I can say that it is because of the strategies that we have put in place to make sure that as much as possible we protect our people health-wise. The decisions that we make are scientific, and of course a lot of research goes into our work. In that case, when there were new WHO rules and regulations that required now tourists visiting countries to bring with them a 48-hour certificate. That was a welcome decision to us as Zimbabwe, and we did not hesitate to ensure that we took that on board. A lot of work, of course, took place. We had to send in delegations to make sure that we were well prepared to receive those tourists that were coming into the country, making sure that the laboratories were available at the point of entry, especially for those that did not have the certificates from reputable laboratories. So far, we are happy that we have not encountered any challenges. It's not just Vic Falls alone. A team was dispatched yesterday to Robert Gabriel Mugabe Airport. Bulawayo also, we are very happy about the preparations that were done. Just today, we resolved now to send throughout the country at all other points of entry to establish whether we are prepared to now open up beyond just our airports. And unless we have undertaken that and come up with a report which is scientific with the whole essence of supporting and protecting our own Zimbabweans, we won't hesitate to open. I cannot give you a date unless we are satisfied that we leave no stone unturned so that we protect our own people. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Mchingurikashi, for that comprehensive answer. And back to you, Chief Secretary, for the second.
Now we come to the second and last.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My question is going to be...
Effort and Secure, SABC News. I've got two questions. The first one, either the chairman of the task force or the Minister of Finance can respond. It has to do with COVID-19 response, the way how the country is responding to issues arising from COVID-19 pandemic. Yesterday we saw in the state newspaper reports of a high number of girls dropping out of school because of hardships caused by COVID-19. Then also over the weekend we did receive reports from UNICEF and other organizations pertaining to how Zimbabweans and how mostly Zimbabweans, both rural and urban, are trying to cope with these hardships to the extent that some are marrying off their underage daughters. So my question has to do with the social safety nets that the government has always been pronouncing and making public. It seems they are not reaching the intended destinations. What is government doing to make sure that such scenarios and such disasters where parents have to marry off their young girls are prevented? What measures or what adjustments, what is government doing? That's the first question. The second question goes to the Minister of Local Government. You spoke about disaster preparedness, and there is a looming disaster that's happening currently in Harare. We received reports that residents of Hopley are forced or have to go and access water from a nearby cemetery because there is no water in the suburb of Hopley. I just wanted to find out from you, first, have you received these reports, and what actions are you putting in place to prevent the possible disaster that might arise caused by the people drinking unsafe water and contaminated water? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sban. My name is Columbus Mavunga, Voice of America TV. My question is directed to Dr. Masuka. Come Friday, we are celebrating the World Food Day at a time when a substantial amount of the population is food insecure. What are you doing to ensure that that becomes a thing of the past and we regain our position as the breadbasket of Africa? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Leopold Mnente from newzimbabwe.com. My question is to the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. Last week when we were here, I asked an almost similar question on whether we have enough teachers to deal with students who have opened. Now that we're opening phase 2 of our schools, I'm not really sure the term which we use. Will we still have enough teachers? Now that most students... Which one?
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm Kuzema Zire. My question is going to be a follow-up on my first question and another follow-up on a response that's similar to my question. I hope you will be able to understand. In as much as schools are opening, but we have some challenges that we have been facing, human resources challenges. So maybe the Honorable Minister might be at liberty to be telling us what are the plans that have been put in place such that when we reach phase 2, those challenges are going to be bridged. Because there's a difference between opening up and giving a service. Schools are being opened up so that kids can learn. They are not being opened up so that they can stay at home. So maybe you can just give us a background in terms of the mechanisms that are being put in place such that these challenges which are there are addressed. Thank you.
You, Chair?
Let's go to the second round, and I'll start with effort to secure SABC. And I think that question will go to the Minister of Finance and Economy. He wants to know what are the safety nets. He is worried that the social safety nets which are put into place don't seem to be reaching the intended beneficiaries. And what is government doing? He refers to the number of girls dropping out of school. He refers to the UNICEF report, which also pertains to how Zimbabweans are trying to cope with the issue of food insecurity. Minister?
Thank you very much. The recent ZIMVAC report, in fact, is commended government in its efforts to structure a social protection package for the vulnerable, which covers several aspects, frankly. When you look at the issue around just supporting livelihoods, what we've done, we introduced a cash transfer program, that expanded the cash transfer program, in addition to the grain and cereal deficit support program. At the moment, we've set it at $300 per person. We are looking at whether we should up that or not. We're still doing our analysis. But also what is more urgent is to have more people registered. So we keep encouraging our citizens to come forward and register with social welfare. So clearly those parents who are feeling under pressure, socially, economically, should register with social welfare. But also the Ministry of Social Welfare, I'm always making every effort to reach out to every community so that registration happens for both cash transfers, but also for the food support program. For education specifically, we've got the BEAM program. There should be every reason that really these parents should register under the BEAM program so they're supported and the children, pupils can go to school. There shouldn't be any dropouts at all because we've got all the safety nets available. Also, in terms of safety nets, with medical support for the vulnerable and for the elderly, but also the Funvudza program, for the Presidential Input Scheme program is a social safety net program, because we are giving free inputs. They were climate proofing the productive activities there through the Kumbuza concept